joined by Dustin Sweet. Dustin Sweet is an independent animation producer and artist. Are we on mute? We are on mute. Okay, that was independent animation producer and artist. He has multiple degrees in the area of animation from the Art Institute of Seattle, the University of Denver, and the Glasgow School of Art. This was about 4 years ago. I decided to go with this picture and not the drunken college picture that I originally had up. Yeah, maybe I'll share it. But so Dustin has worked on a variety of projects, including Xavier Renegade Angel. My GIFs don't work on the PC. Xavier Renegade Angel on Adult Swim. Well, I'll let him describe the show and what was unique and interesting about it. But has anybody seen the show? It was a little too crazy for me, and I'm pretty crazy. But it's definitely a crazy animation, lots of stuff happening in it, so that'll be a really exciting piece. He has also achieved, what did you call that, Dustin, the triple threat? No, the triple crown. The triple crown.
Almost there.
With television, video games, and films. And he also has a graphic novel that he's working on, or finished, correct?
Yeah, that one's done.
Finished, Cyberpunk Zen. And so here's the shot from it. And you can click on this when you get to it if you would like to read more about his graphic novel. So on that note, let's jump to the window. Here you are. Hello, and can we give Dustin a round of applause for joining us? Okay, Dustin, let's click on this so they can see you. Fabulous.
Nice. I'm all blown out. That's great.
Yeah. We can talk about lighting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? What do you do on a daily basis?
These days, I'm pretty much, I get up and take my kid to school or feed her breakfast. And then as soon as that's kind of handled, I spend about 20 minutes writing. I pick a project and I just start writing. Oh, that's making me dizzy, Charisse.
I'm sorry. I'll stop. Boom.
Beautiful.
Boom. Yes.
Most of my time spent writing right now, because I've got like 3 projects in the works, and it all needs work. So then I'll get like maybe an hour done, and then I'll draw for about 20 to 45 minutes, depending on where I can fit that in my day. And then I've got like an hour of phone calls. All of that hour of phone calls is basically all people telling me, no, we're not interested. And then I always kind of schedule an extra 45 minutes in case I actually get into a real conversation with somebody about making something. And then that kind of blossoms into a real phone call. But I schedule about an hour of no's a day so that I can find a yes.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on, and what you're getting no's to and what you're getting yeses to, and what you have gotten no's and yeses to.
It's funny because so I just recently rotated into feature writing, and I partnered with my first RA in college, because I was staying at his house and he got all excited to make movies. And so we started writing feature films and entering them into awards competitions. And we started winning awards, which is cool. There's a lot of back and forth on all of the forums about whether or not the competitions are worth it or not. I got to meet one of my heroes, and he became my writing mentor, this guy named Randall Wallace. He's pretty cool. He made this movie called Braveheart, and his last movie is called Heaven is for Real, which like quadrupled the studio's money. He's a pretty smart guy. Anyway, he started talking to us about a TV series that we're working on, and that was a couple weeks ago. We ended up making a couple short films, and one of them has gotten into a bunch of festivals. So the last year I've just been going from like town to town, festival to festival, showing this short film. And that's kind of what my life has been like in the last year.
So what kind of movies do you make?
We make action adventure movies, the kind with gritty, hard protagonists who you don't necessarily like. Yeah.
Awesome. Then how does that connect? So first of all, how did you evolve into that from animation? And, how did you come into this passion and telling stories in this way?
I come from a tiny town in northern New Mexico, outside of Taos, and the thing for me was always I loved to paint and make comics, so rotating into animation was kind of natural, and so I just went straight to trade school and started going to college for it, and I lucked out in that I landed kind of right on the edge as we rotated from 2D animation to 3D animation. And then I just kind of followed that collegiately and took every opportunity that could head my way to learn more. And it let me meet people all over the globe, and I don't know, make cool little side projects with a bunch of different people. And the thing it taught me was that if you guys look around you and look at the kids sitting next to you, these people are the people who are going to give you jobs for the rest of your life. If you go in the independent world like I am, there's no, like, one of my classmates is a studio exec, and he's given me more work than almost anybody else. But the guy who's given me more work than anyone is actually Chris Porter. You know Chris, right, Therese?
Chris Porter's, what is he doing?
Chris Porter, he's a programmer I met at MIT, kind of on the side. He is made, I don't know, like 15, 20 startups, and he always just kicks me the work to do the animation for their pitch packages. And so then that's paid my rent for at least 5 years. It's just the people you know around you.
Well, I'll have to give him a shout out on the Facebook.
Yeah, dude.
I was just about to ask you, so how long have you been navigating the entertainment industry, and what are some of the things you've learned or things you can share? You've just talked a little bit about how you need to maintain connections, and the people sitting next to you are your best resource. I say that all the time, that your classmates are your best resource.
It's true.
What have you observed from working in the entertainment industry all these years?
We eat our young. The entertainment industry is really fantastic to be in when it's fantastic to be in, and it's really awful to be in when it's awful. And the people to stick by are the people that stuck by you when it's awful. It's interesting. There's this climate in Hollywood that's very much like almost the soup du jour idea of, what's hot now. And I know a lot of screenwriters. I've met a lot of screenwriters online and in person who are busy chasing kind of like whatever is cool right now. They'll do a bunch of resource acquisition, and they'll really look at what's going on big. Like right now, teen action adventure stuff is like a current event in film.
What is resource acquisition?
They'll go after actors or props or locations, or to get a film made is kind of a big pain in the ass. You need an incredible amount of money and an incredible amount of talent to kind of come together, and to coordinate those two things into coming together. I mean, there's a reason the best filmmakers in the world have less than 20 films right now, and it's because the time and the talent required to pull everything together it's a big pain in the ass. People like to call it the highest art form, but I think that's debatable. The amount of talent and money required to get a film financed. Basically what you do is you start chasing down money. There's a couple of investment banks that will really help you out because they're not risk adverse. Movies, if you're like, oh man, I want to get into the movies to make money, like that's not a thing. 85% of movies that get made don't ever make their money back. But the ROI on the ones that do make it very appealing to people who think that, you know, if you've got a bankable name like Tom Hanks or whatever, and a pretty good script, you can expect, you know, you can expect X amount of fans to show up for a Tom Hanks movie. And there's all sorts of algorithms that people have built, you know, per specific actors to get a thing, to see if a film is worth making or whatever.
Sorry.
I'll go ahead.
Okay. On that note,
I've been geeking out about the finance side of it for the last 6 months, so I'll dive off that. I don't want to dive off that height.
well, I would like you to talk a little bit about your most recent award-winning film and how you made it and the process there.
So the short she's talking about is called Happy Birthday, Dad. It's a live action that we shot a year ago. We had this script that we put together because my partner's dad died, and he wanted to make a movie about the things you learn from your dad that you pass on to your kids in the good way, not the bad way. There's plenty of abuse films out there, but we wanted to kind of have a little send up. So we wrote a silent film that's about it's about the things that this guy learns from his dad and passes on to his kids. And we paid for it out of the will that Dave's dad left him, and it cost us about 12 grand. It's an 8-minute film. We shot it over Father's Day weekend, the week that the Red Dragon came out, which is the brand new cinema camera, and we got a lot of really good deals from friends who we've been working with the last couple of years, because everybody wanted to work on this camera that shoots in 6K. So, I mean, that's a really good example of kind of leveraging what you have to get the thing you want made. We spent 2 years building up this contact list of a producer in Seattle and a cinematographer that we really like, who had just toured around the world with Macklemore, and he was back in town, and we just kind of scheduled it in his open time and shot it over the course of 2 days. And then we were going to LA the next week for a bunch of meetings. So we took the footage down to an editor that I knew from Taos, who had moved out to LA, and he'd been shooting reality TV shows for like 6 months. So we showed up with a shot list and a script, and he was so stoked to help us out. So he gave us like 50% off of his normal rates, and then had a rough cut for us by the next Monday before we left town. So we really lucked out on that. And then I had three compositing shots that I took with me back to Taos. And I mean, that 6K footage is so huge, it really shut down all of my machines to work on it. It took me probably about a month to just make 3 comps. And then we put it together and started entering it in festivals, and it's taken us all over the place. It's pretty cool. We the first real sign that we had a good product was in Sedona. We lost the audience award to this film that went on and won Cannes, or Cannes, or however you pronounce that French word. So that was good for us, and it's just been kind of cruising along since then.
Excellent. I have a couple other questions, and then I'm going to open them up to any students who would like to ask questions. How many of you, by the way, are TRF, television, radio, film? So you can see just a little bit of how popular this, that's me,
Cool.
how popular this feature is here, specifically making entertainment, television, radio, film. But I would really like to get into a little bit about your experiences with animation. And
Okay.
what's it like to make animation, which is a classic medium? What's it like to make animation in a changing media environment? And how have you been able to translate your skill sets from analog to digital platforms?
The number one skill set I use in every project that I ever get involved in is the ability to adapt to the pipeline. Every animation project has its own pipeline, which is like Usually there are a couple of artists who have kind of the vision of what it needs to look like, and then there's a couple of IT guys who are helping it all kind of come together. We'll build a wiki page, and then just kind of start assigning tasks, and then everything goes up to the shared drive, and then at the end of the day, scenes get rendered out by an editor who has been working on it pretty much since the animatic. It used to be that you do a lot more pre-production work. Editors in animation don't work like editors in film. Editors in animation touch it first. They get the storyboards and they build together an animatic, and they edit the animatic together until it's funny and it makes sense and has a good pace to it. And then we take the timing from that animatic, which is kind of backwards, but it's so we don't do too much work. In 3D,
go ahead.
In 3D, it's more of an audio file. They'll do that, and then they'll kick out the audio file, and then that's all we have to work with is the audio file. So then you just start compiling assets together until you have something that looks good. And I don't know how it works, Charisse. It's a team.
That's fine. Well, tell me a little bit about why you love animation, and then why you define yourself as an animator, even if you're working in live action. And then I've got one more question, and then we'll open it up.
Well, I just rotated into live action in the last 2 years. I've been writing in the background kind of just because my friend wanted to, and it's just only really taken off in the last 2 years. And I don't really feel comfortable. Like, I wouldn't hire myself out as a film artist just yet. I'm getting close to where I'd be comfortable with that. But I feel like you can call yourself whatever you'd feel comfortable paying yourself money to do. So if you want to be a rocket scientist, call yourself a rocket scientist and build rockets, but if you want to be an animator, then you got to animate. The sense of timing is the most important part of animation. So knowing the difference between a happy walk cycle and a sad walk cycle will get you jobs. I got into it because I grew up in a fine art town, and I grew up surrounded by really good painters and really good printmakers and really good sculptors. And animation to me was just kind of, I don't know, the right draw. And I think I'm a little bit neurotic, so I like drawing the same thing over and over again with minute changes. 3D has kind of changed a lot of things. So there's more camera work, and there's more chance to explore space. When you get down to it, it's about 1,000 hours of work to make any half-hour TV show. And in 2D animation, most of that time is spent on the back end, inking and painting and making it all look good. But in 3D animation, most of that is spent on the front end, modeling and rigging characters and setting up the lights and getting all that sort to look at. So it just kind of depends on what you want the story to be.
Okay, my last.
Answer your question at all? I feel like I'm rambling.
I appreciate you telling us what you love about it, and that's what I was asking. Last question. So you're currently living in New Mexico and working in New Mexico, and I think for a lot of early career individuals, there's the assumption that you need to go to LA or you need to go to New York because that's where the industry is. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how you are making a living in New Mexico and why you have opted not to chase the industry cities.
Well, I'm living in New Mexico because I have the opportunity to be in LA every other month. I lucked out, and I found a business partner who is funding our project and flying me all over the world. And that's super cool. My feeling is that if you want to be in film, go rent an apartment in North Hollywood and get a job there. If you guys are all in college, you guys need to apply to all of the major studios. They have summer internship programs. Take one. It'll be a rough summer. You won't eat nothing but ramen noodles. It's worth every penny. It really boils down to who you know. And if you can get in and make friends who are already in the industry, and basically for film, what you're talking about is spending the next 2 years within a 10-foot proximity of all of your team. So it boils down to who you want to hang out with. Get your social skills up to the top tier. Learn to talk to anybody and learn to always be relaxed and cool. That way people want to be around you. And make it about connecting other people, not like how great you are, because what people will remember is the guy who helped them out, not the guy who sold them out. But they'll really remember the guys that don't help, those people skills, they're really, I can't stress it enough. Hollywood and New York are all about who you know. And if you're really serious about getting into film and television, you got to go there. I can live in New Mexico because there's a burgeoning film industry here that puts out like 5 features a year and a couple of television shows. And I know a bunch of people working in that. So I'll get work. Mostly for me in New Mexico, it's opening titles and credits and a couple of effects shots. I also hire myself out as an effects director sometimes if there's like a fight scene or something like that's going on.
And it's worthwhile to mention that there are other burgeoning industries elsewhere, right? New Mexico,
Louisiana. Yeah, there's Georgia's the number 1 right now. Georgia took New Mexico's outline for film rebates and turned it into a $6 billion industry. Georgia's on fire, but I don't want to live in Georgia. I'm from a high desert, and Georgia's awful.
Yeah, Georgia's pretty swamp.
Yeah, I'm not into it. But because I won that contest and because I'm friends with Randy, I have opportunities in LA that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And it's because I went out and pursued them over the course of the last 5 years. I mean, it's not every guy who's an overnight success. I can guarantee you spent the last 10 years hustling.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up to student questions. Does anybody have a question for Dustin? Anybody interested in making film or navigating industry? Let's see. We've got, all right. We've got like 3 over here. You guys might have to come up to talk to him in the mic. Who would like to come up first? Let's go with Matt. Sweet. Matt's going to come up. Here's Matt. I think it's Sicario. Zaka. Sicario. So here's Matt. Matt, please say your name and your major and ask your question.
All right.
Yeah.
So my name is Matt Saka, and I'm a television, radio, and film major. In your opinion, what is the most essential aspect of storytelling in connecting to an audience?
Hi, Matt. That's a great question. I would say the most essential part of storytelling in connecting to an audience is having a complete story. I've been to 8 film festivals this year, and every short block that I'm in, I see like 80% are all just scenes. And it's really fun to shoot a scene, right? Like you got an intro and an out, but if there's not a story, if there's not a beginning, a middle, and an end, humans don't give a shit. It might be the most compelling, 2-second fight scene or 2-minute, dialogue between lovers or whatever. But if there's no beginning, middle, and end, nobody cares. There's got to be a conclusion. And that's what a lot of people will leave off. Or, if you fall into the art school pitfall of thinking, oh, it's got meaning, it's a metaphor. If it's not an easily understandable metaphor, it gets lost. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Excellent. Next question. Is there one up here? Oh, okay, I always bias left. All right, let's go to, I think it's Tom Condon. Come on up, introduce yourself, and
Hi, Dustin. I'm Tom. I'm a TR.
Hi, Tom.
And I was wondering, what are the main differences between the TV industry and the film industry, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of both?
Let's see. What are the differences? Age. Film has a real ageism problem. TV has a real different thing. The real big difference is who's in charge of the content. TV shows have guys called showrunners. If you ever meet a guy and he says his job is a showrunner, make his acquaintance and get his card. Showrunners run television. They're like what directors are for film. The film industry rotates around a little bit. I just saw a really great talk this weekend. This guy Penn DeLenth, who is a really, really smart guy, but he said, what did he say? I'm a writer, director, producer, what in Canada they used to call a filmmaker. And it's true, the whole film industry has been kind of broken apart into different jobs so that the studio can churn out more work while being less concerned about what the individual players are. Basically to take control from multi-billion-dollar projects out of any one person's hands, which is really important, it turns out. Did that answer your question, Tom? The big difference is like directors on a film set are like they wear the daddy pants, but directors on a TV set are basically just there filling out an application, yelling cut and action. The showrunners run TV, directors run film is basically the answer.
So just a quick elaboration, you said that there's a lot of ageism in television. So that is to say that television is run by...
In film.
Oh,
Film's run by young kids, and once you're 40 in the world of film, it's kind of like if you don't have 2 blockbusters under your shirt, don't worry about it. TV is run primarily by 20-year-olds.
okay, one more question. I thought there was 3 over here. Justin? Jason, please, come on up. My bad. Come on up. This is Jason Gruber. I'm picking up all their names. I'm really trying.
Nice job.
Thank you.
What's up, Jason?
Hi, I'm Jason Gruber. I'm a BDJ major.
BDJ is Broadcast Digital Journalism.
My question is, how long or how in-depth is your creative process when you're coming up with a film or a digital or
Animation.
Short.
It depends, man. Like, I wrote a video game 2 years ago at 4 a.m. after I got up and took a shower, and I was up for 3 days writing it. My creative process is very spur of the moment, and just kind of like whatever idea hits me, I'll follow it. When I'm in development for a specific other thing, what I know is that imagination is just a muscle, so flex it and it'll get stronger. If I've been hired to do a thing, then I just think about it, and then I start doing iterations. I'll kind of start spending an hour a day thinking about a particular thing and kind of working at it or looking at different angles. I'm a visual learner, and I came up in like the 2D medium, so I'll write little sketches about what I think the thing should be, and then there's an illustration technique that I learned in school a million years ago, where you make a drawing of a guy and then you draw 5 different angles to see what the best layout for an illustration is. And I kind of try and do that with stories. So if there's a bank heist, I'll think about it from the point of view of the robber, the point of view of the teller, and then the point of view of just a person who's there trying to get money out, or somebody across the street, or what's the weird angle, and I'll try and find that, and I'll try and dive way off that deep end to find the way weird thing, and then kind of dial it back. And that seems to be where things get made.
I'll make one point and then I will ask you for your final words. I think it's really valuable to note, as someone who thinks for a living, and for those of you who hope to be creative for a living, that after a certain point, you have to learn to compartmentalize this. So he mentions, he gets up and writes for an hour. A lot of us, when we're really creative, we're like, oh no, I need a whole day. I need to just immerse myself in this thing. But as you move through life and realize that creativity and thinking is work, you are going to have to figure out your time differently to be able to maintain your creative process, or and get other stuff done, and eat and sleep and those things. So I just want to add that as a point, a take home.
Yeah, I would add to that, that that daily routine that I laid out earlier, where I draw for an hour and I write for an hour, that's just day to day. I don't have anything on my mind. I'm not working on anything. That's just to keep my chops going, you know. Sometimes that work will come back and get rotated into something, like if I'll write a cool conversation, or I'll have, you know, I'll have a drawing that I think is fun that works for a new thing. I'll just slap it in there and save myself some time. But that's really just to keep my chops up and to keep doing it. What happens is you're in that kind of loop of doing those things every day, and you get a project, and it, you know, you kind of grind at it, and then, you know, one morning you wake up at 8 a.m. and you snap wide awake and you get on a roll, or you're in the middle of that writing hour, and all of a sudden you catch fire and you just crush through it. It's important to remember that if you're an artist, and that's the way that it burns in your heart, it's important to remember that that's the moment, and you need to seize that moment. So if you're in the middle of writing a thing and your friends are like, "Oh, come on, we're gonna go eat udon noodles," tell them to bring you some back, and stay working with it. Keep that fire going for as long as you can, and then when it burns out and it's, you know, a day later and you're all worn out or whatever, put it aside, sleep on it, come back and edit it. I always tell people that I'm a terrible writer, but I'm a great rewriter, and that's the skill that gets me. That's the skill that gets me hired, is my rewriting.
So in our last 30 seconds, what would be your final words to students or early career professionals who are excited to do the things that you do?
Start doing them. You got more opportunity than any generation before you, but you have millions of people wanting to do what you do. There is a swagger that comes from having completed the projects you want to work on, and there is a skill set that comes with completing projects other people want you to work on. If you can finish projects while you're in school right now, you will look that much better going out into the world. I would recommend that you guys attack internships. Where are you guys? Charisse, where are you guys?
We're at Syracuse. We're at Newhouse, which is one of the top communication schools in the country, but yeah. I repeatedly tell students that you cannot rely on the name, because you will be.
No, the name's not going to get you anywhere. It's the work. You know, I've worked as an art director a couple times, and I've been in charge of a bunch of projects. If your workload says that you haven't done anything since you graduated from this really prestigious school, you've just been dicking around Europe, I'm not going to hire you. You need to have work. You need to stay. They call it staying relevant, but what it is staying hungry. You need to have a good reel. I know a bunch of art directors that don't even look at a resume until after they've seen the reel. And if you don't have a reel yet, get one. If you want to be shooting video, if you want to be directing, get some friends together and do some Shakespeare and direct it and shoot it, and just get a reel going and get an internship, and I don't know, make friends with all these people around you, because, you know, 80% of you in this room right now are gonna pull out and not do it for whatever reason. You're gonna have kids or a life, or your side job at the bank is gonna go really well and allow you to travel to Tahiti all the time, or, you know, whatever it is. 80% of us just fall out, and that top percentage, one of you, two of you, three of you in there, you're going to be in the industry for the rest of your lives. Make friends with each other, help each other out. Nobody else in this industry gives a shit.
Awesome. And on that note, I'll come over here so you can see me.
Yay!
Thank you so much for joining us. Can we give
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
And if my students have any questions, can I have them email you directly?
Yeah, please. I'm always willing to make friends who are graduating from prestigious universities.
You lie. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I'll be in touch real soon.
Right on. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks. All right, so we'll stop this.